Thanks, Kalpesh. For those of you that don't know me, I've been working with JDE Edwards for over 25 years now. Many of those years have been spent helping clients learn the new features and maximize the value they get from their JDE Edwards investments. I've been working with Ndevr for nearly 15 years. Ndevr are the largest team of experienced JDE Edwards professionals in Australia, and we offer a full suite of JDE Edwards functional and technical services. We support all versions of JDE Edwards from XE to the current release. We can make a support plan for your business, one that suits your actual business needs. Our frontline or first line of contact are all highly capable JDE Edwards consultants, and they are all based here in Australia. We all know that switching support providers can be a really challenging and sometimes costly exercise, but sometimes it's one of those things you just have to get on and do. So Sasha has asked me to let you know that to make it easier to make the switch to us, we're offering any new customers a discount of 30% off their estimated cost of transitioning in. If you'd like to learn more, please use this link on this page or simply scan this QR code and you can go straight there. Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to focus today on three main areas, namely the modern user experience in JDE Edwards, graphs, visualizations, things like that. We'll also look at some of the automation tools. Some have been touched on already, and we'll have a look at them in more detail in some cases. And then we'll also explore OCI a little bit with JDE Edwards. Oracle have focused on these areas over the past number of years, delivering enhancements and improvements on a regular basis. Release 24, the current release, I think soon to be the previous release, is a culmination of all of these enhancements. So let's start with this message center, my work list page. This page was delivered, it's an E1 page that actually delivered back in 2018, but I think it's really worth taking a close look at. I feel like admin can use this as their landing page because it includes the Orchestrator Health Monitor. I'll get it. It's a tongue twister for me today. Other users may want to take just this message center in the middle and place that on their landing page. On the message center, you can see the work center. This is the same work center that we used to under Actions, the Work with Work Center, but of course it's much improved from a user interface point of view. Now we've got search facility on it, so we can search across all our messages. We've also got the ability to sort, so we can sort by message date, by queue name, by subject, and of course we've still got the ability to link to see the message, of course, and to access any links within a message. Also, within the message center, we can monitor our notifications. We can monitor them from the top, from the little bell icon in the top. But if we monitor them from the message center here, we've got the same facilities that we have in the work center where we can search and we can sort and we can drill down into the messages and so on. On the right here, we've got the health monitor. Now, this is really handy for your admin people because this is where you can monitor the progress of orchestrations, notifications, and so on. And you can see it shows you the last 10 times that this particular orchestration might have run. And if you click on any of those ones there, you can drill down into more information. So, for example, I clicked on one, and here I can see the last 10 runs, and I can see how long they took, whether they passed, whether they failed, or whether they were successful. I can also, if I went to look at run details, see how each step in an orchestration ran, how long it took, what the status of it was, and so on. And I can also have a look at in more details and see all the inputs and the outputs from that orchestration. So Even if the orchestration is running in fire and forget mode, I can see everything, how it is. I can monitor how it's run and so on. This is fantastic because in previous releases, once you sent it to fire and forget, it was very difficult to see what was going on with it. Here we can monitor it much better. So really nice screen. This my work list in total. And remember the components, because like all E1 pages, which we'll have a look at later as well, the components can be used separately. So you can take just the health monitor out and put it on an E1 page with other things that are pertinent to your role and not have everything. So we've seen, as far as user experience goes, we've seen these UX1 role-based pages for a long time in JDE Edwards. I think there are well over 50 of them. They cover all the areas in JDE Edwards, all the roles and all the applications within JDE Edwards. They basically they're divided into 3 areas, the standard ones. This one is the AP Manager role-based page, if you're interested to know. Okay, and basically they've got the 3 areas, the alert area, which is watch lists, and you can drill down into any of those watch lists to see the data that's making up the tally there. And in the middle, we've got the analyze. This is where you've got your graphs, and it's also where you might see information pertaining to KPIs, for example. You can drill down into those graphs to see the actual information behind them as well. And then over to the right, you have the Act section. This is a springboard into the appropriate applications for this particular role. The beauty, as I've mentioned before, of these pre-delivered pages is that you can use them as they are, or you can take a component from one and combine it with a few components from another and end up with exactly the information that's pertinent to you, to your business, to a specific role, and customize it exactly as you need it to be. Within the pages, those graphs, the watch lists and so on are also all customizable to suit your requirements, to suit your data. More recently, Oracle have delivered a couple of very nice interactive maps. The property map, we always had one in the olden days, but it was quite a mission to implement for starters, and it didn't really give us that much functionality. This new property map with all its improvements was delivered, actually, it was introduced in release 22, I think it was. Now, what I've done here, for example, is I've entered a company, and I've also entered a property number, a project number, and it's displayed on the map all the properties that are under that project number. I could have used a building type or a building number or whatever, but in this case, I filtered by project number. So it shows them all. I can zoom in, I can zoom out of the map, however I like. And I can also click on the little, I forget what you call it, the little pin. And I can see information. For example, here I can see some information about the Atrium Mall, the building number, the size of the property, and so on, the address of the property. I've also got a very nice picture of the mall there as well. But more importantly, I can see that from here directly, I can drill down into row exits, and I can manage my property from here. You can see that some of the exits here are rent roll inquiry, expiring leases inquiry, and so on. So I can manage the properties directly from the interactive map of the properties. Now in release 23, well, after this map was introduced, a lot of the customers said, wow, this is really nice. Can we please have one over the address book? Because it would be nice to be able to work with customers, to work with employees, to work with suppliers in the same sort of manner. So Oracle kindly obliged And in release 23, they gave us an address book map. It works on very much the same principles. You can drill down and go and work with your addresses directly from the interactive map. Oracle have slowly been adding more and more features, sometimes not quite so slowly either, and functionality to form personalizations. So by now, there are so many features that we can use. I'm only going to cover a few of them in this talk here. But this is the original purchase order details screen as it's delivered by Oracle. Apart from having info that we don't need, perhaps currency information, there are also 4 tabs across the top, which probably contain only 1 or 2 bits of information relevant to your business. So, and in this case, for example, I've highlighted the line details tab, and perhaps the only bit of information relevant to your business is on a tab other than the order details tab, is perhaps this requested date, for example. Well, using form extensions, form personalizations, and grid personalizations, we can make the order details screen look exactly as you want it to look, or exactly as you need it for your use case. It takes away all the noise for our users, and it presents just what we need. So let's take a look at what I actually did here. First thing I did was I said, right, these people don't call the branch plant. Instead, they call it a department. So we changed the name. Similarly, they don't call supplier, they call him a vendor. So we've changed the name. We moved that requested date from the line details tab back onto the order details tab. So now all the information that we need is on the one screen. Also, you'll notice that there's no currency information and things like that, because we, in this particular instance, don't need to see that. So we've removed it. It's not there. We've always had the ability to customize our grid to a certain degree. One of the things that's been introduced recently, well, fairly recently, is the ability to change the column names on the grid as well. So that's a really nice, handy thing to have as well. So now we've got an order details screen that looks just like we want it to look, without any extras, but with everything that we need. We've also managed, because we've got all the information we want and need at the moment on the first tab, we've managed to remove the other tabs. We hide them, they're not there, they're not confusing anybody, they're not in the way. And lastly, what I did was I moved the order attachment button from the top part of the screen down to the bottom, just because I can. And I like it down at the bottom. So that's some of the things that we can do in form personalization. Certainly not everything, but it's definitely quite a lot that we can do there. Oracle mentioned that when they first introduced this form personalization in JD Edwards, it took away 10% of their enhancement requests, just like that. And I'm sure that as they've gone on and added more and more features to the form personalization, that request for enhancements has dropped even further. A lot has been talked about automation today, and I'm going to also talk a little bit about automation. So as a little example of automation, and the cumulative power that is in the enhancements that Oracle have delivered in this area, I've chosen one of my old favorites to automate the intercompany AP vouchers, or the intercompany related party, so that we can raise an intercompany related invoice or voucher when the invoice is entered. So we start by creating an orchestration. And as input to that orchestration, what I've done is I've said, right, we'll do it by batch. We'll pick a batch and say, let's generate the intercompany invoices for that batch. So I've got the inputs, which are batch number and batch type, and then I've got the various service requests that do the work, rules, form requests, etc. And that will actually generate the intercompany vouchers. And next, I configured an output message that said there's a voucher being created, here's the batch number, and it's been sent off for approval. So I've now got the automation. It knows what it must do in order to create the intercompany voucher or the related party voucher. And we need to add it on to the, to run it, basically. So here, as I said, I'm working on the batch in total. So I'm going to attach this orchestration to the work with batches, the P11 application. On the form extension manager, I might add a button and call it generate intercompany transactions. And then the next thing I do is associate an orchestration with that button. Notice here you can associate notifications and logic extensions as well. Notifications probably don't make much sense on this screen. But for example, you might have a notification associated with the ABN number on the address book, so that if the ABN number is changed by anybody, it automatically alerts somebody, perhaps the accounts payable supervisor, for example. Logic extensions are absolutely brilliant. I love them. Here on the work with batches, you might use a logic extension to prevent a batch status change if certain conditions are met. You might use logic extensions to write tracking records. I don't have time to show you today, but go to Learn JDE and take a look at the new tracking features. Basically, with minimal effort, you can create tracking records or an audit trail, if you like, for just about anything. Okay, so when the button is clicked, now the orchestration runs and returns the relative message back to the screen. Of course, good practice is to develop the orchestration and make all the form changes in the dev environment first, and then promote them through, just like any other development that you might do. Your JD Edwards administrator should have a solid procedure for this, as with everything else. Okay, so another thing that was delivered by Oracle in release 23, in fact, was 2 standard workflows. These are fantastic for getting us started with workflows. Firstly, the bank detail workflow. This is what I'm showing you here, bank detail approval workflow. This ensures that a proper approval process is followed when bank information is changed. It's triggered or activated via a processing option on the bank accounts, work with bank accounts screen application. The other one that was delivered was the voucher approval workflow. This is something that a lot of our customers have asked for, and they've wanted it for a long time. So, yeah, this is a really lovely one to have. And also, surprise, surprise, it's activated via a processing option. Now, remember that these are the pre-built standard workflows, but there's no reason why you can't change them. If your approval process isn't quite the same as it's been delivered, go in, make the updates to the workflow, reactivate it, and away you go. Also, these are very nice as a starting point for other workflows that you might want to use for other tasks, like approval of maybe batch invoices being generated, approval of new lease agreements, anything. Or even not approvals, just straight workflow where you need to be able to monitor and regulate a specific process. Well, I think we've heard today of quite a few benefits that running JD Edwards on Oracle Cloud infrastructure. And here I've just listed 10 of them, but I want to highlight four of them, which are ones that we have seen firsthand that our clients have benefited from. The first is that it's the lowest cost cloud in Australia. We're all monitoring costs. We're all cost conscious these days. And yep, this is the lowest cost cloud in Australia to run. The ability to replicate from Melbourne to Sydney or vice versa with zero recovery point objective, which is really nice for our clients. Keeping the costs low, the ability to have non-production environments run on a schedule means that you can have your non-production environments running only during business hours, for example, during core business hours. And you can always fire it up if you need after hours, just for that short period, but, you know, keep the costs down on a regular basis. And also with regard to cost, the agility of the cloud, whereby systems, you can spin them up and you can destroy or archive them when they're not needed, and you don't have to purchase any infrastructure, so keep your CapEx costs low. Now, lots been said about AI and machine learning. Now they are, as you've noticed earlier today, available to JD Edwards via the orchestrator, and it opens so many doors for JD Edwards customers. Here are a few ideas of how we could use AI. There are pre-existing trainable, customizable, trainable document analysis models that can be used to process a whole range of documents into JD Edwards. We saw invoices earlier. Remittances come to mind as well. Purchase orders perhaps. Resumes into HR. What about creating sales orders via customer POs that could be brought in from your website or maybe from email? Basically, document understanding can pick up the unstructured data, interpret it, and send it, the structured data, to JD Edwards via orchestrator to be processed. You could use anomaly detection to help monitor with the monitoring of assets, keeping an eye on cost overruns and a host of other anomalies. Noise levels in a machine, for example, if they're out of their usual range, an orchestration can be triggered to alert somebody to that, or possibly to generate a work order. The vision models, they could be used for product defect identification. Again, could interface to JD Edwards to take appropriate action if a defect is detected. That could be maybe in the QA location in your inventory, and if a defect is located when stuff lands in QA, it could generate a transfer request to a defects location, for example. Or again, if it's a piece of equipment where a defect is found, it could trigger a work order to monitor it, correct it, whatever the case may be. The generative AI models, they could be used to summarize large amounts of data and interpret it, and perhaps summarize large contracts and pass through the pertinent details maybe to JD Edwards contract management, so that the contract can be established in JD Edwards and monitored. Oracle have got many pre-built models right across the AI platform, and all those models are customizable and trainable on your data and to your requirements. Yeah, so as you can see, JD Edwards is very modern these days. It's really, the interfaces are very modern. The things we can do with it are very modern, and it's definitely our ERP of choice for the modern world. Don't forget 30% off transition in costs if you come to us for support. Any questions? Does JD Edwards have a REST API document? I see that's one of the questions. Absolutely, it does. The whole orchestrator is a REST, orchestrations result in a REST API. So just go and look at all the orchestration documentation. anything you want to know about REST API is there. Yep.
I'll share the links with Leah. Thank you, Leah. I'll just answer that.
Yeah. Yep. And let me just tell you, learnjde.com is the place to go. Absolutely the place to go. It is, it's wonderful. It's got a wealth of information, and it's continually updated. Really, kudos to Oracle. It's a fantastic site. Go and visit it. So much to learn there. So much exciting stuff. Okay. Well, that's it from me then.